suggest we get started. Yes, so hi again. Hi, everybody. Hello, those of you who are just joining us now. Um, Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Valeria Ballaro. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer here at Star, and I'm going to be your host today. I'm really delighted to welcome you to this session that is on a topic that is so close to my heart. We're going to look at all of the changes in the roles of the CMO and in their relationships with their agencies, all of the changes that are happening now that are being driven by AI over the last couple of years. As a CMO myself, I know how quickly our role is evolving right now. Growth, brand, technology, all of the levers are being pulled at once, and AI is now coming to the center of this transformation. But before we dive into the insights of our research, let me give you a 10-second introduction to STAR. Star is a global technology consultancy that's been founded in the Silicon Valley nearly 2 decades ago. We have been working closely with industries like automotive, healthcare, finance, and of course, media and advertising. And we have been helping startups and enterprises in these industries innovate, build products, platforms, and other technology solutions, helping them connect better with their customers. And so what we are seeing now is that AI and platform technology are evolving so rapidly and changing the way marketing is done across all of those industries. And really, this is creating a significant divide between the marketers and their agencies. So to understand this better, we've partnered with Forrester and launched an independent study into AI and platforms. We surveyed more than 300 CMOs and senior marketing leaders across Fortune 500 companies in North America and Europe. Our goal was to uncover their priorities and pain points, and to also deepen the collaboration between marketers and their agencies, so both can take full advantage of the opportunities that AI brings. Because how we do marketing is changing, because the role of the CMO is changing, and because the brand's relationships with their agency partners is changing as well. So with that, I'm going to welcome our experts to the stage. In today's session, we're going to unpack all of those changes together. So here is what you can expect. First, we have Manuel Geitz, Forrester Principal Analyst, who will walk us through the key findings of our research. Then our Global Managing Director of Media and Advertising, Scott Tieman, will join Manuel to discuss what it means for agencies, brands, and the larger marketing ecosystem. We'll finish with a few practical recommendations that you can start using right away. And for that part, we'll be joined by Lolly Mason, who is our head of strategic accounts and who will bring hands-on experience in digital media and partnerships. Please, whilst we are doing the presentation, if you have any questions, please pop them in the Q&A section. We are going to address them in the end, if the time allows. We have some time set aside for Q&A. But just in case we can't go through all of the questions, we're going to follow up with some written responses. So in either case, your question will be answered, so don't hesitate to send all of your questions in. We're also going to be running a few quick polls so that we can compare your perspective with the Forrester findings in real time, so please take part in those polls as well. With that, Manuel, I'm heading over to you.
Thank you, Valeria. Well, pleasure to be here and present the findings of the study that we did together with Star Global. Let's wait until we see the screen. Perfect. Okay, I will start a little bit with housekeeping, i.e. the firmographics of our study. So who do we ask? We already mentioned that we asked about 300 marketing officers. Can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. And we focused the study pretty much on EMEA and the Nordics, and we had about 20% of respondents also coming from the US. We have a very nice distribution here between smaller companies and larger companies, with about half of them being between 1 billion to 5 billion annual revenues, and another half being above 5 billion revenues a year in US dollars. Also, a very, very nice mix across industry sectors, CPG companies, financial services, automotive, life sciences, you name it. Pretty good balance here. If we go on the next slide, we can see that when it comes to the level of responsibility, especially for this survey, we wanted to know what's their decision making or influence in decision making when it comes to digital strategy or transformation. So we have about 30% final decision makers in that domain, and we have about 65% being part of a decision-making team and others influencing those decisions. When it comes to the positions, we have about 13% CMOs, so chief marketing officers. Then we have about 46% coming from vice president, head of department kind of a role, and then about 40% directors. And when it comes to their current status of the transformation, about 51% are targeting to increase their investments into transformation in the next 12 months. Others are implementing but not yet expanding further. And then there's a very small fraction that is planning to implement within the next 12 months. On the next slide, first things first, good news first. So agency tech matters a lot for CMOs. It matters a lot that the agency tech is innovative. It matters for their marketing performance. It matters for their differentiation in the market. Having said that, when we go to the lower end of the respondents on the next slide, there are already some signals of, let's say, lack of differentiation creeping in here. So we have 45% of the respondents saying that they strongly agree or agree to the statements that their platforms are actually easily interchangeable, and 30% are saying that they're actually being commoditized and that they're not seeing a lot of differentiation coming out of them. If we go to the next page, we see their priorities, right? And you won't be surprised when we say that the highest priority for CMOs is growth and growth in the top line, namely, but the second highest priority is already adopting AI, right? And if we would have done this survey 2 years ago, this wouldn't have made the top five, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm speculating here a little bit, but I'm sure most of you are with me here. Of course, improving CX is table stakes, but the ability to innovate, the differentiation in the market, those are all priorities that matter a lot, but namely AI is top two. If we move on, we see that the CMOs are not that satisfied with their agency tech delivering against these priorities, specifically the AI-driven automation and optimization. I would also like to call out number two, inadequate data privacy, security, or compliance. 38% are not satisfied with that being provided by the agency tech. And that is, of course, fundamental. If I am extremely invested in my brand IP, if I am protective of that data, I need a partner that I can trust with that data. So those two for me are the highlights. AI is the obvious one, but data privacy is just as important in my mind, even though we don't have as high numbers of respondents mention that as a key priority for them. When we move on to the next slide, we see that CMOs increasingly step into tech leadership, meaning that, and I think you need to click a couple of times here. There we go. They increasingly step into tech leadership, meaning that almost 60% have a formalized role for MarTech in leadership already. Others use joint planning sessions with the CTO. Others have direct collaboration or are involved in the tech steering committee. These numbers will continue to rise. I have no doubts about that. But even today, most CMOs have a real strategic role to play when it comes to tech choices. If we move on, we can see that there's still some gaps remaining when it comes to the alignment between tech and marketing. It's good news that we get pretty high scores for CX. So CX being fully aligned between CTOs and CMOs, 36%. That's a solid number. I am a bit, or what actually caught my eye was the second to last one, the responsibility for customer data management. Is ideally, if I look at your data, I know something about your strategy, right? Which data matters to you means what value delivery in the market matters to you. And if that is not aligned, the responsibility for customer data management between the CTO and the CMO, we see real alignment issues and hence real value delivery issues in those organizations. If we move on, we can also see that, oh, and another click, if possible, thank you, that fragmented systems undermine integration. Yeah, and this is not specific to the CMO, but maybe most important for a CMO because a CMO needs to show clear ROI more than any other function in the organization. And if I have a fragmented system, if I can't track my workflows, if I can't track my value streams, it's really hard for me to track ROI and create the transparency to my stakeholders. Of course, you have that higher complexity that comes with managing multiple vendors, and also 50% of respondents mentioned that as a problem. Integration, so integrating all of these marketing tech platforms and the related analytics is a problem for 39%. That is impacting agility for most organizations. And of course, it really relates to higher costs. Yeah? You have more vendors to manage, so you have more platforms to maintain, you have more changes to implement. It just drives up cost. So what does that mean in terms of opportunities? What can we take away from this as calls for action? The number one relates to what I just mentioned related to the fragmentation. So unifying that MarTech ecosystem, extremely important because we see that more than 90% of organizations still struggle with this. Right? We have only 8% that tell us that there's an effective seamless integration in their MarTech stack. The others are saying, okay, it's moderately effective, but we have gaps. Others are working on it to integrate it and to create that seamless interaction. And then others say we have significant integration issues. Yeah, so vendors, service providers who can offer that to their clients most likely will see benefits from that. The second one, demonstrating tangible returns with AI. We mentioned the importance of ROI, but we also mentioned the importance of AI-driven automation. Those are real opportunities. I also highlighted the threats here, shifting more capabilities in-house and the role of agencies to diminish in the organizations are the threats here that you see with 30% and 25%. I've highlighted those in more of a brighter blue. So there's the opportunity to address these threats, and both of them you can see on this slide. If we move on, opportunity three is addressing one of the big issues that CMOs face, which is upskilling their internal teams. Yeah, we're living in a time where the pace of change in AI is just extremely high. It's really hard to keep up with all the models that are out there, the release cycles that are out there, choosing the right platform for the right use cases, and keeping your employees up to date when it comes to the skills they need to use these tools effectively. That's a real challenge. Again, providers who can offer this to their clients will reap the rewards. So let me recap a little bit what I've said here or what the data tells us. CMOs have growing tech influence, that's for sure. Agency tech matters to them. There's a risk of being commoditized when it comes to agency tech, and AI has become non-negotiable. Execution gaps still remain when it comes to the fragmentation and the lack of alignment between CMOs and CTOs, and that fragmentation of platforms is really costly for CMOs. So providers, vendors that can address these issues, that can address these priorities, will come on top. That's where I keep it. You can find all the details of the data, more data points that you can analyze in the full report. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to the conversation. Thank you.
Manuel, thank you so much.
Mhm.
Before I let you go, we have a quick question from the audience
Sure.
for you. It's just a clarification. What type of agencies do you refer to when you say agencies? Creative, advertising, media?
All of the above.
Fantastic.
All of the above.
All right. Thank you very much. Well, thank you for these insights, Manuel. Really, really interesting. And what resonates with me as a CMO is that we are really looking to technology to create those personalized experiences for our audiences. And with AI, we are getting the opportunity to orchestrate that at scale. But we're seeing that even with proliferation of these tools, the marketing ecosystem is remaining really fragmented. And still, there's lots of competing approaches. Still, there isn't one blueprint as to what is the right way of doing this. So that's obviously really interesting. And Scott, I will ask you to join us next. And please, could you share with us your biggest takeaways from this study? And what do you think this will all mean in practice for agencies that want to better service their clients and brands who want to get more from their agency partners?
Yes, thank you so much, Valeria, for the setup, and so glad to be a part of this conversation. Emmanuel, I love that data that you just shared. They're so rich. There's so much information that has been captured, and there's so much insight that one can take away from it. And so, what I want to do now is just provide a little bit of narrative around how I'm thinking about this data. I think there's a number of different takeaways, four key takeaways that from the research that I think we should talk about. I think first, it's clear that there's a massive CMO accountability shift, and that's leading to rapidly changing CMO expectations of their agencies. And of note, CMOs are demanding deeper integration with agencies and their platforms, and they see AI as a strategic imperative. So those are the four themes that really come out about this. And so let me provide some additional color about that. Uh, Most CMOs tend to have notably short tenures on average, often much less than other C-suite executives. And we all know there's many factors that contribute to this, but the long and short of it is that they are sometimes out of step with the strategic business priorities of their organizations. This is changing, though, as the CMO role is rapidly transformed into a growth and technology architect role. As you heard in our survey, almost 100% of CMOs noted that growth is a top priority. And they see technology and AI-driven technology capabilities as a key enabler of that growth. So we see CMOs defining key marketing technology priorities for their organizations, and they're collaborating more and more with technology leaders in their organizations to closely align on those priorities. As noted, more than half of CMOs report engaging in strategic planning sessions with technology leaders in their organizations. However, it's clear that there's still an alignment on priorities, but there's a misalignment on how those priorities get realized. So we heard the CMOs say that they don't see eye to eye on technology investments. They want it one way, the technology leaders want it another way. And they note that this misalignment limits their ability to scale their initiatives more effectively. So the role of the CMO is clearly changing. They're getting a bigger seat at the table, but that's coming at a price. And now they're more accountable than ever, and that's changing how they think about and partner with their agencies. Large companies continue to make massive investments in marketing. As a percentage of revenue, marketing budgets have fallen significantly over the past few years, but it's climbing again. And on average, it's high single digits. If we look at the way that CMOs generally split their budgets, they do that into 4 broad categories, each with about equal weight. And these include the internal staff costs, investment in marketing technology, agency fees, and also paid media spend. So agencies continue to represent a huge percentage of the CMO's overall budget. And when we view it through that lens, it makes it clear why they are constantly pushing on their agencies to deliver higher value and greater efficiencies. First and foremost, CMOs clearly expect their agencies to deliver ROI and do it in a transparent manner. And they say, as Manuel said, that if they can't prove the ROI from their technology investments, that they have difficulty scaling their digital initiatives. So they also expect their agencies to embrace and increase their AI offerings, and they want their agencies to fully integrate their technology platforms into their company's MarTech ecosystem. So in short, CMOs think agency technology is key to unlocking marketing performance, and that's the reason why so many CMOs say agency technology is a critical factor in the selection of their agency partners. They also say it's a critical factor in the retention of their agency partners. So it's not even just what the agencies are bringing today, but it's how they're continuing to innovate over time and being differentiated and added value to the ecosystem. I think this is one of the most important insights from the survey, and it's something that I think we're going to see a lot of agencies think a lot about. So it's clear what they want. Unfortunately, they say that their agency partners are falling short today. They cite a lack of education. They think that there's some smoke and mirrors around the use of AI for automation, and they want that strengthened data compliance. However, there's one ask that's the biggest ask that CMOs have of their agency partners, and that is to fully integrate their agency platforms into their own company's marketing technology ecosystem. They want to see that data connected together. And doing so would help unlock a lot of use cases around the strategic use of data to improve customer experience, to automate workflows, and really to bolster performance management. And it would allow agency and brand teams to more naturally collaborate side by side, leveraging the same tools. But it's just plain hard, right? That's why so few, like literally almost none of CMOs say that they've achieved seamless data integration across brand and agency platforms. So in short, integration is perhaps one of the biggest opportunities and simultaneously also one of the biggest challenges. So why is it so hard? Well, the straightforward answer is that CMOs generally look to their agencies to own this integration, and their agency partners generally lack the skilled technical resources and the overall know-how to do the work. Also, for being real, there's also a large cost to doing this work. However, agencies that commit to the integration and build the capabilities or leverage partners to complete that work will be happy to note that the integration does create the opportunity for long-term stickiness, which for agencies can be elusive normally. And CMOs are more likely to describe their agencies, as indispensable partners. So there are really clear benefits to completing this integration. Another key reason that CMOs are demanding this integration is because CMOs are under pressure to increase their own use of AI in their own organizations. AI, as we heard, is now considered a critical factor for future success, and it's fast moving out of that experimental phase. However, within their own organization, CMOs cite the lack of technical expertise around AI and cloud and low code and whatnot within their own organization. So that's a major limitation for them achieving this goal on their own. And these delivery gaps are really undermining their ambitions. So not surprisingly, CMOs are turning to their agency partners to help meet this mandate, but so far, they're not impressed with what they've seen. They see a lack of AI-driven automation and optimization. They point to inadequate data privacy, security, or compliance in their agency technologies. So it's clear that agencies still have a ways to go to meet the CMO's AI mandate. So there you have it. Those are my 4 key takeaways from the research. Massive CMO accountability shifts, rapidly changing CMO expectations, CMOs demanding deeper integration with their agencies, and AI as a strategic imperative.
Fantastic, Scott. Thank you so much for sharing that perspective with us. Um, I'm getting some questions from the audience regarding the report and the deck. I just want to let you all know that all the attendees of the webinar have a special perk. You're going to receive the report after our event. So please check your inbox after this webinar. And that is an early release just for you. The rest of everybody else is going to receive the report next week. So you have a special pre-release teaser version of the report so that you will be the first ones to see it and the first ones to put these insights into practice. But Scott, while I have you here, 2 things I would like to ask you. First of all, I know that you've been already discussing these topics and some of these findings with some of our clients, so some of the agencies. And I just wanted to know, how are they reacting to these findings? Is there some sort of common themes that you are seeing within what they're saying?
Yes, I've actually loved these conversations that we've been having with our clients, and they're very revealing, right? I think what I'm seeing is a lot of validation, but I think uh, I'm also hearing that maybe there's other changes that are happening that are worth noting. So first, I've heard a lot that not only is the CMO role taking on more of a technology architect bent, but maybe in the future, the CMO and the CTO roles are going to merge together. And that could happen in a shorter amount of time than we might realize. I've also heard that due to some of these changes where technology is now being elevated, and maybe that's the first thing that agencies are talking about in the pitch rather than the way it used to happen, is that this could drive different commercial models for the industry overall, that the way that things are done today needs to change, and there are new commercial models that could emerge because of this trend. And I've also heard that integration is an urgent priority, that both sides, brands and agencies, really recognize the value of being able to do this and don't think of it as a nice to have, but as an urgent priority to get done. And I think uh, the whole ecosystem is trying to figure out how to do that and seize the benefits, but also some of the challenges of making that happen.
Um, thanks for that, Scott. And just one more question from the audience. And this is just perhaps more of a reflection and to see what you think about this. We're getting this comment that I owe my CFO accountability, and the agencies have been too secretive on how they make their money versus what is actually moving the needle for me as their client. So this person is saying that they're looking for AI to help them resolve that. And I was wondering whether you've heard this from other people you've been speaking to, and whether you have a recommendation or thoughts.
Yeah, good. We only briefly touched upon this, but the CMOs, as growth architects for the company, they're now more accountable than ever for delivering this growth, and they're also accountable for the spend that they have. And so that means they've got a larger role to play in the boardroom, and they're accountable to the board and also to the CFO who holds tight reins over all of this. And so that relationship obviously is key. The way that they deliver and prove that accountability, I think, is key. And so, the key here is really integration. I think today there's so much reliance on the agency to provide reports and provide their perspective on what's working and not working. And the only way to get to a system where all of that performance data is integrated and in one place is to create that interface between the brand and the agency layer. I think AI has a part to play in all of this. It can certainly help with analyzing the data and presenting that in a form. It can help to automate some pieces of that, but none of that can happen until there's that interface layer.
All right, thank you so much, Scott, for this. I see we have another poll, so please do make your selections. In the meantime, I know that we have with us audiences both from brand side and from agencies. So before we go into Q&A, proper, I just wanted to ask each of you to share your top insight, something actionable for our audience to take away from today's session. So, Lolly, can I start with you? And you have been in the media industry for a long time, and based on what Scott and Manuel have shared, it seems like there is a role for media and advertising vendors to play in creating a more integrated marketing ecosystem. So what is your take on this, Lolly?
Hi, thanks, Valeria, and hi all. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree that there's definitely a play for vendors and media owner side as well. So to me, it seems like a sort of quite significant, perhaps a reset of tech collaboration across the industries needed. So there has been a bit of I noticed somebody mentioned it in the Q&A earlier, a bit of a black box, not just with agencies to the client side in some cases, but also within media trading in particular, much more so than creative, etc. But so I think if there's a reset across say supply side agencies, brands, etc., we can connect the ecosystem much better. And to do that, improved frameworks are needed. And I know there's some sort of efforts towards that, both in some cases at sort of governmental level, but also there are a number of industry groups starting to look at enabling more sort of streamlined ways of working with AI across different companies and company types. Improved transparency is going to be key because there is still a bit of a black box with some programmatic platforms, of course, and also interoperability directly between agencies and supply side, which I think isn't something yet that the supply side is that focused on. An integrated ecosystem, of course, isn't just about making workflows easier and having nice dashboards, but it's totally key to fulfilling the potential of the newer opportunities that AI enables. So, for example, things like real-time full funnel optimization rather than old school last click, etc. Strengthened attribution as well that can start to look at sort of media mix modeling, for example. Media owners and platforms to get to that will need to focus more on interoperability, but also importantly, an API first approach to data sharing. So at the moment, there are some platforms, trading platforms particularly, that don't necessarily have an AI first approach. So they particularly want their customers to have to log into their platform, but they need to take a step back and be a little more willing to release the data. Interestingly, while agencies need to keep innovating to avoid risk of commoditization as they have to focus increasingly on tech, their sophisticated tech might actually now help premium publishers to push back after they've just had decades of commoditization from programmatic trading. Now that planning tools, attribution, optimization, etc., start to get more sophisticated. So yes, in a nutshell, greater collaboration, huge potential in connecting the ecosystem in a better way.
Thanks so much, Lolly. Manuel, can I ask you to share what has been your main insight from this research?
Sure. Yeah, Valeria. I think I go back to the data point around privacy. Yeah, that customers, CMOs are highly concerned about data privacy and security. And in an AI world where everything that's digital can be duplicated very easily, the being protective about your data, your IP, your brand is going to become more and more important. I mean, we're already seeing like authors suing large language models, big movie companies suing large language models. You want your data to be protected if that's what's differentiating you. And that's a call to action for any provider of technology that it is important today. It'll be more important tomorrow, even more important a year from now. So if that's not delivered, that security, that trust you have with your platform, with your technology providers, that the one ingredient that makes you stand out in the market, i.e. your IP, your data, your brand, um, then you'd rather use worse technology that's more secure. So that's for me one of the key points that came out of here. On top of what we've just discussed, what Lolly mentioned and what Scott mentioned, I can't stress this enough. Yeah, and that goes for all tech providers.
Thanks so much, Manuel. And Scott, let's finish with your key insight. If there is one thing you take away, what is it?
That's good. Yeah. So not the four key insights, but a brand new insight. I think when I put it all together, right? I think the biggest takeaway for me is that agencies must go beyond efficiency and they need to link AI with revenue and create platform solutions that can connect with brands, marketing, and media ecosystems. They need to focus on co-creation between brands and agencies and think of each other as strategic partners. Most importantly, growth in the AI era requires ecosystem readiness due to all the interdependencies. So whether you're a brand or agency or publisher or a MarTech company, AI is commoditizing speed, and with agentic AI, it can also commoditize the expertise. And that means having an AI-ready infrastructure and organizational culture that enables you to be more interoperable with the larger MarTech and tech ecosystem overall is just critical. So that's my key takeaway from all this.
Thank you so much. Thank you all three of you for the insightful discussion. We have some questions in the chat, so I'm going to ask those to you now. So let's go to Q&A. Please, our audience, if you haven't asked a question and you would like to ask one, this is your chance. Please go ahead. We have time to respond to them. So let's start with this one. I'm going to address this one to Manuel, because perhaps you're also seeing some of these tendencies happening in companies. So the question is, we've seen companies replacing CMO-shaped roles by more CFO-shaped roles. In my opinion, and as a result, the short dominates over the long. I doubt those C-level willingness to invest in appropriate contribution for their agencies to build up MarTech and AI capabilities in times of increased ROI expectations. Do we have any insights of how some brands and agencies might overcome this challenge?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Of course, nowadays there's more competition for investment dollars, right? There is quite a rush to invest into AI and build the enablers for AI, importantly. Yeah, 9 out of 10 AI initiatives turn into data initiatives immediately, and the related integration initiatives, etc. pp. So there's a lot of demand, more demand than 2 years ago. But planning and budget conversations were difficult 2 years ago, 3 years ago. They are never easy. Now they're even more complex. Of course, you're trying to get through this through this hype cycle way where if I'm a CFO, I look at this as, well, this is an immature technology. According to where I stand, I don't know what's going to be the end game here. I don't know which vendors are going to survive all of this hype. Why should I invest into something that is not yet fully mature? If I'm a CMO, I see the potential, right? And I've seen what competitors can do with this, especially, by the way, on the creative side, on the content creation side. There, the ROI is frankly off the charts. So yeah, it is going to be difficult for a more CFO-shaped role to make these calls on where do I take this risk to invest in a technology that's by all measures not yet fully mature. But I take the risk because I see what the potential is. There you need the domain expertise to understand, well, do I have the right people? Do I have the right data? Do I have the right technology to actually define a blueprint in the absence of one in the market to achieve that potential that I've seen being delivered in that domain in other companies? So the CFOs are by definition more conservative, and rightfully so. Yeah, there's a reason why you have this, I would say, division of labor in an organization. The CFO is a control function, right? So there are, I used to work in a CFO organization, and my boss kept telling me, like, we are the safeguarder of the investor's assets. That's the mindset that a CFO should have. And the CFO needs to be convinced that there's return for the investor, rather than, okay, let's give this a try. So it depends on the kind of organization that you're in and what you're willing to drive. If the board, if the C-suite decides we want a more CFO-shaped type of a role to lead this, they might have good reason, right? So I'm not trying to, you know, belittle the role of the CFO. They're unbelievably important, especially in times like ours where there's so much risk out there. So it's a choice. Yeah. And I don't think one choice is bad and the other one is good. It's what you're trying to achieve as a company. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. And I think the topic of the changing CMO role and sort of that merging of CMO, CTO has really struck a chord. So next question I'm going to address to you, Scott, because in your section, you spoke about the emergence of these new models, of these new economic organizational models where the CMO role is merging with CTO or another role. Can you expand more on some of these other models that you see perhaps coming in the future? What can we expect to see, if you have some ideas or if you've heard of companies doing that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So just as Manuel talked about in answering his question just now, it's clear that the things that we think are monoliths within an organization, right? The CMO role and the marketing organization, the CTO, CIO role and the technology organization, the CFO role in these are not one size fits all roles. Each organization designs them differently and they create them based on the needs of the organization and also the strengths of the individuals that fill those roles. Okay. And so you will see a different flavor of responsibilities across every organization that you look at. In some cases, technology will have be the defining force when it comes to things like marketing technology. In some cases, there will be more reliance on the marketer to be able to define out their priorities in terms of technology and be equal weight thinking about that. In some cases, Manuel talked about there's finance influence in that. But what happens when the CMO and the CTO roles come together? Is it just called CMO and they take on the responsibilities? Is it just called CTO and they take on all the marketing responsibilities? Maybe. Maybe it could be that, but also there could be maybe new, customized roles that might emerge. I think we see lots of different flavors of C-suite roles in organizations. Chief Digital Officer is an example of that, typically driving transformation for the organization. They've got responsibilities for both marketing and technology priorities. You see, Chief Experience Officer, who's obsessed about how their customers or their customers are interacting with the organization, everything that might entail. We see chief data officers and so on and so forth. So there's lots of different blends, and it really just depends on the organization. But it's very, very important not to think of those C-suite roles as monolith roles that are exactly the same from each organization to the next.
Thanks a lot, Scott. Next question for you, Lolly. So you spoke about interoperability and connection of platforms. Do you have any examples where you have seen this connection or this interoperability work well?
Yeah, it works better in different parts of the industry. So some have been sort of built up with interoperability in mind, like a lot of the asset management platforms now connect really well to sort of pull and push assets and the metadata associated with those, sort of back and forth. I think on the programmatic side, some platforms are certainly better than others. Trade desks, of course, have been building up in various directions and have been modernizing at quite a rate. And companies like StackAdapt have always had a good reputation in terms of connectivity. Weirdly, in the TV space, there is some good connectivity across some different company types, again, more for sort of sharing creative workflows, perhaps less so on the data front. But the problem is, of course, where you've got bits and pieces of good interoperability and connectivity, you've still got a fairly disjointed ecosystem. So I think agencies and brands can certainly help, because I think there has been maybe a sort of an acceptance that so long as performance looked good, it was okay to work without total visibility, particularly through the sort of trading platforms, etc. Although it was okay to expect people to have to log in, particularly say for supply side partners to log in, for instance. But so yeah, I think pressure from those that have the influence, which are always the budget holders and the agents of the budget holders, I think can start to help to push on this a little bit more. And also, I think sort of direct agency to media owner relationships and connectivity starts to get better as well over time, as it becomes easier to sort of create more sophisticated media plans once again. Now that we've got help of AI and new types of audience planning tools and optimization, etc. as well. Yeah, some examples, but not perfect yet.
Thank you so much. Maybe two more questions, depending how quickly we get them answered. Manuel, one for you. There's been quite a few comments, questions around privacy data protection. So here is one that's maybe a little bit controversial. Marketing has taken no responsibility for privacy data protection and harnessing it as a growth lever. They've passed it to legal. So trust is in crisis, and this will hurt revenues. How do agencies and AI make this worse or better, in your opinion?
And AI will make it worse for sure, because it's much harder to protect your data. Yeah, definitely. I mean, if I mentioned the examples before, whatever you feed into a public model is public information. Yeah, and every model trains on public information. So you need to be a lot more protective than you needed to be before. Yeah, because it will disperse much faster. There's also always the question, if I as an organization, I hand over data to, let's say, an agency that uses a model, can I be sure that this model doesn't absorb that data, train on that data, and then spill out that data in a search result from some other user where it shouldn't end up? So that will certainly make it worse. That's why, again, if that data really matters to you, the privacy angle is really important. And there, you know, you can't really pass it on to legal, right? Because legal then needs to apply only the law. Then ideally, that transpires into compliance policies. But you need to look at the BISOs, yeah, the CISOs, yeah, the business information security officers, etc., PP, to define, okay, well, what is my data strategy? Which data matters most to me, and how do I protect that data? That's not a job for legal. It's not a question of the law. It's a question of strategy. So that's how, in my mind, that can be overcome, that you have different layers of security of your data. Of course, customer data comes first, and any spill of customer data is one of the biggest risks. But what differentiates you as a company? What is the customer intelligence that differentiates you? Your brand IP, your design guidelines, whatever it may be that you don't want to diffuse into the public domain. So it's more of a business question than it is a legal question. There's no law written on how you should protect your data over and beyond consumer protection and insider trading and things like that. It doesn't protect your strategy. That's the real problem that we're facing these days. So it needs to be a combination of, the cybersecurity, business information security, and compliance, and the respective IT and CMO departments. Yeah, and that's frankly what we're seeing in all domains. That you look at more like diamond-shaped teams with experts from multiple domains to tackle a problem, rather than working in silos where you say, well, I'm in marketing, I throw it over to legal, let's see what happens. That's it. That won't work anymore.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Manuel. Scott, one for you. How do we make sure that we manage the unrealistic expectations for AI in terms of speed and impact? AI requires fundamental rethink of all workflows, both on client and agency side, and we need to make sure that we aren't allowing one-sided point of view to drive the conversation. Do you have a view on this?
I do have a view on this, but it's probably a little different than what one might expect. I think the pace of adoption, the pace of change is driven by competition in the market. And you can take a step back and you can spend that time to really invest in rethinking and doing everything the perfect way. And meanwhile, your competitors are rapidly implementing things and making progress, and that's showing up ultimately in the performance of the company. I think there's a balance. You can't be just competition obsessed and just looking to outpace your competition. You need to do things a right way. But the reality is there just isn't a lot of time when it comes to AI to just take a step back and say, we're going to watch this from the sidelines, see what happens, and then make our move. Within one's own company, there's clearly some urgency. That urgency is not just because people are reading, the daily press and think it's interesting and want to check it out. That pressure is coming from the very top of the organization, who's under pressure to move faster and rapidly evolve margins in all of that. So you have to consider sort of all of those forces, which can be difficult to do. I think ultimately the playbook isn't written for how to work with AI, and so it's a constant drumbeat within the organization to let people know that AI, like any technology project, doesn't happen overnight. But I think the need there and the urgency is very very worthwhile. It needs to happen quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for that, Scott, and thank you for answering all of these questions. we didn't get a chance to answer everything, but we will do that in a follow-up, and we're going to share responses to all the questions asked in written form so that nothing will be missed. So you're going to receive those in your mailboxes. But thank you very much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure sharing these insights with you and to host, been a pleasure to host you. Just before I let you all go, I just wanted to let you know again that as a special perk for joining us live, you're going to be receiving the report 1 week before general public does. So 1 week before the public release. So you're going to get the presentation in your mailboxes after this webinar, so that you can be the first ones to explore the in-depth content and get to use the insights, put them to use ahead of everybody else. We're preparing some more high-value content and practical takeaways, so please watch this space. Our next event will be at CES in January 2026. We'll be hosting some hands-on sessions diving deep into the research, so stay tuned for more updates from us. And on this, I'm just going to say thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much, our speakers, for your insights. And everybody, please have a great day.